Environmental Racism in California's Central Valley. As consumers, we do not often think about the impacts the items we purchase have on other people. This is especially true for the produce we consume. Unfortunately, the cost of producing a box of strawberries is significantly higher than what we purchase it for at the store. That box of strawberries is costing somebody else their health. In order to produce that box of strawberries, workers in California's Central Valley risk their health, something that has no price, so you can enjoy your box of berries. Farm workers in the Central Valley are putting their health at risk and have been for many years. The effects felt as a result of being farm workers goes beyond health and into systematic issues, including environmental racism. The following information is taken from Linda Nash's book Inescapable Ecologies. Since the 1920s, an increasing number of farm workers in the United States have come from Mexico. Labor shortages that resulted from World War II caused the need for more laborers, especially in agriculture. The formation of the Bracero Program, a series of laws and agreements between Mexico and the United States, allowed Mexican men to fill empty positions in the fields, which resulted from labor shortages. This program lasted between 1942 and 1964. As pesticides were developed, they became widely used by growers. In the 1950s and 1960s, California used larger amounts of pesticides than anywhere else in the country. It is estimated that they used 20% of the national total, but there are no accounts of the actual amount that was sprayed. Those spraying were only thinking about profit rather than their workers' health. Valley residents began questioning the use of these chemicals due to the effects they had on non-target crops and wildlife. Some Valley residents were saying that these chemicals were making them sick. This included reports of laborers having their fingernails fall off, swelling, and pain in the eyes. By 1963, the California Department of Public Health was reporting that agriculture had the highest rate of occupational disease. This rate was extremely high, more than 50% higher than any other industry, and it was unreported. One situation involving the death of a farm worker also happened in 1963 in the town of Modesto. It was believed that this person had died from parthian poisoning. California officials arrived in the San Joaquin Valley to test workers who had symptoms of poisoning and workers who did not have any symptoms. They found that of 33 people who were tested, 25 were poisoned, yet they were asymptomatic. Many workers reported painful symptoms such as rashes, eye problems, temporary paralysis, nausea, shortness of breath. They understood the effects of these pesticides better than any health officials or the general public. Despite the fact that this case occurred almost 57 years ago, farm workers today are still exposed to the chemicals present in pesticides. This is a racial issue because 92% of farm workers in California are Latino, as reported by the California State Latino Caucus. This means that the Latino community is disproportionately affected by the issue of pesticide exposure. It is also important to note that 75% of California's farmworker population is made up of undocumented immigrants, as stated by farmworkerfamily.org website. This presents a larger issue that is not widely talked about regarding the undocumented community's access to health care. Many undocumented immigrants do not seek medical attention due to factors such as lack of insurance and fear of deportation. A UCLA study found that on average, undocumented immigrants visit the doctor 1.6 times a year, while the average United States citizens have a visitation rate of 3.2 times a year. The connection between these two issues is clear. Farm workers, who as we discussed are primarily Latino and undocumented, have to turn to low-paying jobs like field work, yet by doing so, they are putting their health on the line. This is an environmental justice issue. Just like the main bodies affected in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, brown bodies are being largely affected by the exposure of harsh chemicals and pesticides. This issue is not only affecting farm workers short term, but it is also reported that pesticide exposure leads to chronic illness such as cancer, infertility, and respiratory conditions, making the effects of the exposure a lifelong battle. The issue also affects children of farm workers before they are even born. In the report, Exposed and Unignored: How Pesticides Are Endangering Our Nation's Farm Workers, which was published by Farm Worker Justice, they provide an image that shows two drawings which were completed by two children of the same age. As we can see here, one image is connected and has a figure, while the second image is a series of scribbles. The image on the right was drawn by a child who had high exposure to pesticides. It is stated in the study that this higher exposure of pesticides among children results in higher rates of birth defects, developmental issues, as well as leukemia and brain cancer. Even if the children are not on the fields, their parents still carry the pesticides on their clothing, shoes, and skin. This makes the spread of these pesticides to children unavoidable. Earlier this year, I went to Bakersfield to visit some family. While we were there, we made a stop to visit my aunt's sister. Her sister lives in housing that is provided for seasonal farm workers. They live in Mexico for the majority of the year, but come work in the United States during the summer and fall. In the housing complex, they have a school and daycare center for the children of the workers. These buildings and their playground are right across the street from the agricultural fields where pesticides are being sprayed. These children are being exposed to these pesticides, and many do not have the option to attend a school that is further away from the fields. These children are exposed to the dangers of these pesticides and will continue to be as long as their parents seek work in the fields. Until we can find a solution to this issue, brown and undocumented bodies will continue to be disproportionately affected by the pesticides used to grow our food. Through the history and examples provided, we see how expensive that box of strawberries truly is. Farm workers have been exploited and affected for many years and deserve to have better working conditions. Unfortunately, until we can move away from a capitalistic society that puts profits over people, we will continue to see workers affected by dangers such as pesticides.